All right, guys, we're back. We're live. We're here with the recap for Week 7. A little bit late. I said I wanted to do, my stuff on Sunday. I don't think Sunday really works for me. I like to get a lot of the advanced analytics out, kind of watch some of the games that I missed, and then at the same time, I'm like, all right, well then why don't I stream on Monday? And then at that point, I'd rather just talk about it with the Monday night game. So we'll talk about all of the games and not have to be like, oh, well, we haven't watched the Monday night game. So streaming Tuesday, posting Tuesday, streaming Wednesday, posting Thursday. And that's probably going to be the schedule with a bonus stream there at the end of the week, which I didn't get to at this week, but it is what it is. So we're still new to this. We're still getting on it. But yeah, I've had a pretty good day so far. I went shopping earlier, and later we're supposed to go pumpkin picking. We're going to be going to the farmstead over there, get some pumpkins. I got a chili cooking. It's fall. We're almost halfway through the season. Soon we'll be doing our mid-season awards. We'll talk about some who we think's going to win MVP. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later, though, right now. So let's get into our picks and see how we did on our pick'ems. So, all right. I don't think I did as good as last week. Let's see. I went 8-7, so yeah, I was actually like twice as worse or twice as bad, right? That is what it is. What it is, right? All right. So I picked the Saints. Actually, I thought I picked the Broncos. I'm not gonna lie. I was rooting for the Broncos in this one. I don't know why I thought the Broncos defense, or I don't know. I don't know why I thought Spencer Rattler and the Saints would have a good performance against this Broncos defense. They've been like top 3 or top 5 in DVOA. They were really great in this game, and they were really great all year so far, right? So Broncos defense is elite. They have a pretty good offensive line, and Javonte Williams also had a really good game on the ground. So the Broncos are a really feisty team. They kind of went on a very similar stretch last year, if we do remember. So we'll see if they can keep that up. But I picked the Saints, who were the dogs in this one. Actually, 58% of people picked the Saints. Maybe I was really rooting for the Spencer Rattler game, and that's why I picked them. But I don't think the Saints are too competitive without their top 2 wide receivers and without their quarterback, and it's probably going to continue that way until that changes, right? So I will say Bo Nix has looked pretty all right. He still needs to work on his footwork. He needs to work on his accuracy. I need to fix this camera a little bit, too. It's like a little bit high. It's looking a little high. All right, there we go. That's a lot better. So, yeah, he obviously still needs to work on his footwork and his accuracy issue, right? He's not super consistent on a down-to-down basis, but it is what it is. They're winning games. He's winning. They're winning. I do think his rushing ability is really fun, though, and he's been doing a great job in that area. So, not too much to say about this one. I am excited to talk about the next game. So, Patriots versus the Jags. I picked the Patriots to beat Jags in London, which the Jags have been there were there for 2 weeks at this point, and they were without Travis Etienne and maybe a couple other pieces. I don't know if Tyson Campbell played or not, but the Patriots had 0% rushing success on first down, and overall their rushing capabilities in this game were very limited. They haven't been able to run the ball at all. Ramondre and Antonio Gibson aren't exactly top-tier talents in the league, and their offensive line is horrible. It's not Drake May's fault, right? But Drake May did have a stellar game. I thought he played really good. He had a lot of stuff that I really liked. He had a lot of throws over the middle of the field and stuff on the boundary that you really like, right? So Drake May's awesome. He's totally the future of this franchise, and don't get it twisted looking at the box score or just the scoreboard, right? So Jags pick up another win here. Is that 2 in a row for Doug Peterson? I'm not too sure. Did they win last week? I think they won last week. But yeah, Doug Peterson, he keeps his job for another week, and Trevor Lawrence is still not getting it done. He's not being, a top 5 quarterback like he's paid, right? He's not living up to that payday, right? All right. Next up, I picked the Packers. Ooh, was I 0-2 up at this point? I picked the Packers to pick the Texans. I was really excited to see what this Packers pass rush was going to be able to do against this Texans offensive line. I didn't think the Texans offensive line was too good, which obviously in this one was a major factor. The Texans offensive line was not very good. They looked pretty bad, and the Packers just really got it going. They didn't create any takeaways that I know of. I'm not too entirely sure. We can check the box score, but little flashbang there. Yeah, no interceptions, no takeaways, no nothing. Right, clean game. And even with that, Jordan Love threw 3 interceptions, and Jordan Love throws 3 interceptions, and he still gets it done, man. He's like a true gunslinger, man. He'll throw it up to you on the boundary. He'll throw it to you over the middle, bunch of crazy throws. He'll throw those Brett Favre picks where it's like, what are you doing, man? But he won this game for them, man, and he played great. Josh Jacobs played great. The receiving core played great. And most importantly, the defense played great. They really had an answer to C.J. Stroud and the offensive line there, right? Obviously, Joe Mixon had a big day, but I think the Texans without Nico Collins are limited and a little bit of a way, right? Tank Dell isn't exactly like the perfect wide receiver. Yeah, he was pretty cool last year, but in terms of output this year, it's not the same, right? So, so it looks like right now this Texans team, their offensive line might hold them back in the long run, and it might hinder them from an AFC Championship or Super Bowl win, right? So, however, the Packers are right there, I think, with any team. So are the Texans, but Packers are right there with any team. Their weapons are amazing. Tucker Kraft is awesome. Jaden Reed is awesome. Watson, Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, Musgrave, Jacobs. I say it every single episode. And then Jordan Love. They're all right there with everybody in their position group. Their offensive line is just always good from year to year, and their defense is playing a lot better than maybe people expected going into the season, right? They've created so many takeaways. Their pressure win rate was off the charts this week, and they've just looked really good, right? So Packers win this one, and they beat the Texans. A lot of boring weeks this week, I feel like. I felt like there wasn't, too exciting. I don't know. There was some good games this weekend, so I won't lie. I was really excited for the Texans and Packers, and I was really excited for Drake May's debut again, or his second start. And then I was excited for the Seahawks and Falcons game, which I picked the Falcons just because I didn't think Byron Murphy was going to play, or Tariq Woolen, which I'm not sure Tariq Woolen played or not, right? But nonetheless, it didn't really matter. Byron Murphy did play, and their run defense wasn't exactly amazing, but they were able to get a ton of pressure on Kirk Cousins, and that obviously was a formula of success. They had a bunch of sacks, a bunch of pressure. They had a forced fumble for a touchdown. They had 2 picks. The Seahawks defense looked baller in this. They haven't been totally consistent, but it is a first-year head coach in Mike McDonald. And the offense looked really good as well, but DK Metcalf did go down, so we'll see how the future holds for the Seattle Seahawks, who have been so injury-prone over the last few years. And then the Atlanta Falcons, who were on such a hot roll, right? They were 3-0 in their last 3 games, right? They were on a 3-game win streak. Seattle was on a 3-game losing streak, and then they lose this one against Seattle. So you got to bounce back. Kirk Cousins needs to not throw as many interceptions. I don't think they were all really his fault. They were just they were his fault, right? But I understand where he was going with a lot of them, right? And then the fumble was unlucky. So try to bounce back and win next week. I'm not sure who they play. But then next up, we had the Titans versus the Bills. And by the way, if any of you guys would ever like to call into the show, just join the Discord. I'd love to chat and talk to any of you guys that are listening to the show. We can talk about any of your favorite teams, any of the matchups that you really liked, and what you thought about the games. So if you're followed to the channel, ask for the Discord link, and I'll send you the Discord, and we can hop into a call together whenever, on stream, of course, and talk about some football. So next up, we had the Bills versus the Titans, and this was a really slow game at first. The Titans were starting to win. Mason Rudolph had the start, I believe. I don't think Will Levis started. I know Mason Rudolph finished the game. The Bills were able to really slow down the run game of the Titans, and the Titans were slowing down Josh Allen in the first half. However, once he started rolling, right, he really started rolling, and he had 300 passing yards, and he had a nice touchdown to Amari Cooper, and he had some good plays he had some really awesome plays, actually, to Kincaid and Dawson Knox, a touchdown there. So I think their problem so far has been their run game. I don't think their run game has been too amazing. However, it doesn't really matter when you have Josh Allen and you're able to throw 300 yards. Titans are one of the worst teams in football, so this was an expected win from the Bills, and they won in big fashion, right? So they won by 24, which I don't think they were winning at halftime. So good win by the Bills. Started off slow, but you got it and you won, right? They've been starting off slow, I think, in a lot of their games, but finishing really strong. So this was a matchup that favored them in that aspect, and they won. So next up, I cursed the Vikings. I wanted them to go 6-0, and they lost. They had it up until the end. Dan Campbell did a great job managing the game in the end, and they were able to get the game-winning field goal. Jared Goff has looked like an MVP candidate. Talk about midseason MVPs. He's not my leading MVP candidate. However, he's probably number 2. He's played great ball. He started off a little slow. He didn't have a great game versus the Bucks, but the last 3 weeks, man, he's been amazing QBR, over 110 in each of the last 3 matchups. The run game has been amazing. The offensive line's been really good. The defense has been all right, and I thought their defense wasn't going to be that good in this one, and that's why I thought the Vikings were going to be able to win. But, however, when the Vikings needed Sam Darnold to go win the game, they weren't able to do that. So I think that is going to limit the Vikings in a week-to-week basis, where if a team really starts to figure it out on offense and they start scoring, putting some drives together, and the Vikings don't really have that much of a run game going on, then Sam Darnold might not be a guy consistently to go win and go down the field and score every single possession or score most of his possessions. And it was proved in this one. I thought he was a little off. I didn't think the pocket presence was too great, and he wasn't super quick or accurate with every, down to down. So I don't exactly know the stat line in this one and how he did, but I do know he had a couple good throws to Justin Jefferson, which was really nice to see. Yeah, JJ had a big game. Yeah, 22 for 27, 260, touchdown and a pick is all right, but you don't want the pick and you want another touchdown probably is what I got to say. But recap. Ooh, get a recap. Yeah, the defense is just really awesome. So obviously I think this is probably still going to be a contender in the NFC at least, and it's going to stay that way as long as their defense is balling out. But the Lions have like one of the best offenses in the league, if not the best, right? So they continue to roll. That's four straight from the Lions, and they take the division lead versus the Vikings. So this was a really big one. It was a must-needed win. And as long as they continue to play like how they did on Sunday, then they should continue to win. So next up, we had the Eagles versus the Giants. I did not expect Daniel Jones to be getting benched in this one. He still has not thrown a touchdown in that stadium for over 650 days or whatever the stat line is. I don't really care about it. They didn't have a really much of a run game in this one. They couldn't get anything going on offense in general right through the pass game. Who was it was it Drew Lock who took the field and then threw a pick right on his first drive? I'm still a little bit iffy about the Eagles. It's just like weird, man. They just can't get anything going. I don't know if it's Hurts' fault. I don't really want to put the blame on Hurts because I don't think it's all Jalen Hurts, man. He had some really awesome plays. I felt like he also had some really good throws, and the defense looked really good in this one. So continue to play how you did, I guess, on defense. Maybe fix a couple things on offense. And yeah, man. I mean, they're obviously still a contender. Do I believe the Ravens are the best team in the NFL? Yeah, Ravens are the best team in the NFL. I will talk about the Ravens in a minute. Once we get to that game, we'll be talking about that because I also want to talk about my main MVP candidate. I'll probably do my midseason awards at the end of this week, and we'll probably talk about Lamar, right? So, here, why not? Why not just go talk about the Ravens right now? So, Ravens last night really kind of just took over the entire game. The Bucs started off pretty hot. They started off 10-0 or 10-0, might I add. And then it was just a Lamar show, right? Lamarvelous MVP. And he was awesome, man. His pocket presence is elite, and he's just looking like the best quarterback in all of the NFL right now, right? Yeah, Lamarvelous. Patrick Mahomes isn't putting up any of the numbers. There's just no quarterbacks other than like maybe Josh Allen, who he like single-handedly beat just not too long ago, right? The game that I was at. So, yeah, 4 touchdowns. His run game, like the run game with Derrick Henry is amazing. Being able to have a run game like that, it has proved to be such a strong weapon. Because every single team, like they're facing the most stacked box. They have the highest stacked box rate in the entire league at like something like like something outrageous, right? I think it was like 38% or something like that. And because of it, it makes it very easy to throw the ball for Lamar, I think, right? You get all the play action. You get so many guys in the box. You had a really nice throw to Bateman in that game. Yeah, Henry's also an MVP candidate, man. Dude. Uh-oh. We got Steelers fans and Ravens fans. Yeah, we can talk about the Steelers once I'm done talking about the Ravens because, I mean, we can talk a little bit about Russell Wilson and the Steelers and the defense, right? Yeah, Ravens, Derrick Henry. The defense looked really good. Obviously, you didn't want to let up, 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but Bucks might be kind of cooked for the rest of the season. Mike Evans went down. He's going to be out until at least week 11 is what they're saying, and then Godwin's obviously out for the season. So that was a really tough injury. Maybe that's something you might want to talk about is why is Godwin on the field with 30, 40 seconds left in the game? There's 2 more plays that you can run, and you have your wide receiver one. It kind of sucks. All right, so Steelers fan, are you going to win the NFC North? You think you're going to beat the Ravens out and win the NFC North? I don't know if I'm entirely sure about that. Dude. No way. You don't got to call me out like that, man. I'm getting trolled by my family right now. Everybody's got the same username. Yeah, Godwin shouldn't have been injured. That was a waste of time, man. He shouldn't have been on the field. He's also on one of my fantasy football teams, man. And then I lost that game because Dobbins and Godwin couldn't get anything going. So yeah, I think the Ravens are the front runner, I think, to win the AFC right now. Lamar's the front runner to win the MVP. Back-to-back MVP would be amazing. He's already probably locked for the Hall of Fame, but this would 100% lock him, right? So next up, we'll talk about the Bengals and Browns. There's not a whole lot to talk about the Bengals and Browns. Watson got injured, thank God. I would never really root for anybody's injury, but if there was anybody that would need to be injured, I think it's Watson. A lot of his teammates were backing him up, but maybe that just shows who you are as a person, right? Winston isn't the best guy ever. Watson's obviously not the best guy ever. Bengals offense was a little slow in this one, but they pick up 3 straight versus the 3 worst teams in all of football, and they're right back in it in the AFC. So next up, we got the Colts Dolphins. This was kind of a crappy game. Anthony Richardson wasn't too great, but you're playing the Dolphins without the Tua, so there's not a whole lot to talk about this one because I didn't talk about it much before because the Dolphins don't have Tua and they're not able to get a whole lot going without him. However, who wins the NFC West? Well, we're about to talk about an NFC West team, the Rams versus the Raiders. Rams had a little slugfest versus the Raiders. Raiders obviously have such a great defense, so it's going to be a close matchup probably no matter who they play. I don't think the Rams will win in the NFC West, and I don't think the Cardinals will win the NFC West. I'd have to lean with the 49ers. The Seahawks do hold first place. I think the Seahawks defense can be really good when healthy. Obviously, they have a top 10 offense right now in DVOA and EPA per play. Or OVOA, not DVOA, sorry. They have top 12 offense in all my sea chickens. Seattle has a top 12 offense in all efficiency metrics. Geno Smith has been playing really good. The offensive line isn't too great, right? However, I will like to mention that they did not have Anthony Bradford or Stone Forsythe playing on the right side of the line. They had Mike Jarrell and Christian Haynes out of UConn, which was their 3rd round draft pick this year, and a lot of guys really liked him. So, and they looked a lot better this week with those 2 guys in on the offensive line. However, DK Metcalf having a sprained MCL and probably out for the next 2 to 3 weeks is not going to be really great for the team, and they'll probably suffer because of it. And I think the 49ers have a pretty weak schedule going forward, I think, right? They should play the Cardinals and the Rams again pretty soon. And I can see them probably taking the division lead and still being a contender. Obviously, they didn't have too great of a performance versus the Chiefs, which we'll talk about here in a second. But Brock Purdy probably isn't as elite as everybody thinks he is, because once he's outside of the pocket, he's not super accurate like Lamar is, or Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes. He's not able to make throws outside of the pocket that you want from a top-tier quarterback, and because of it, he's limited in a certain way. And also, without Debo and Brandon Ayuk, which I guess you can say this about any team, he's also just very limited. They do have a lot of injuries, and they should be healthy kind of soon. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk going out for the season isn't what you like to see, but you got to be able to win games like against the Chiefs, right? So, Commanders blow out the Panthers. I didn't talk about this one that much last week, and that was just primarily because I thought the Commanders were going to blow out the Panthers, and they did. The Panthers have only invested in offense the last couple years, and it really showed. And on top of it, you traded away your best defensive player over the offseason to the Giants and Brian Burns. And then your second best defensive player goes out for the season, and J.C. Horn's just not as good as he once was. So the defense looks really suspect for the Panthers. Not even they're just flat out bad. And you might as well just have Bryce Young start, right? Andy Dalton had that really awesome first week starting versus whatever team it was that they won against, right? So Commanders, even without Jaden Daniels, were able to ball out. Marcus Mariota looked really awesome. He had a really great passing route tree. He threw footballs all over the field, middle of the field, deep on the outside on the boundary. So Commanders are looking really awesome, and they're looking legit, man. They're probably a year away. You probably need an offense, another draft, get another wide receiver weapon, and get some dudes on defense, and you're probably going to be competing for the NFC next year. So next up, back to the 49ers and the Chiefs, which I was talking about. We'll talk about the Chiefs offense in a little bit, but I do want to continue about my Brock Purdy rant, because he's had the highest time to throw in all of the league and has barely anything to show for it, really. I mean, they're 3-4. He holds the ball forever, and then he scrambles and isn't super accurate outside of the pocket because of it. And I did expect the 49ers to win. I did expect Debo and Brandon Ayuk to play the full game, obviously, which they did not. I thought they were coming off a really big win versus Seattle. That might have been a little underrated in some eyes. Maybe people thought Seattle was frauds. I don't. So, the Chiefs, however, I don't know what kind of devil magic they got. Whatever dark magic they're running over there, they can just win every football game, and I don't think they're good enough to go 17-0, but this really might just be another team that can go 17-0 and three-peat, right? Patrick Mahomes is playing like some of his worst football, and they're able to win every single week. Like every single week, it's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes isn't having a great game, but like if you need anybody to drive down the field and win you a football game, it's Patrick Mahomes. Even without his top receiver, even with an aging tight end. Granted, I will say they probably have the best offensive line in all of football. The right side of the offensive line, your center, right guard, right tackle, that trio right there is really good. And they're really good in the run game, right? Yeah, the ref magic. I didn't think there was too many crazy bad calls in this one. I thought it was just a normal officiated game. I didn't watch too heavily on this game. It kind of wasn't too much. Yeah, I'll go back to talk about the Ravens and Bucks last night, because that was kind of atrocious. The Chris Godwin sequence was not one to really be. It shouldn't have happened. Obviously, I'm a little salty because he's on my fantasy football team, but it is what it is. However, for the Chiefs and their offense, once they're going, man, they're going to get going, and I think this team might be able to go 17-0. However, maybe I just cursed them, and they're going to go 6-1 after this next week, so... next up, I do want to really talk about the Jets and Steelers. You fire your defensive head coach. You hire the defensive coordinator interim, right, as your interim head coach. And now their defense has struggled the last 2 weeks. and then you trade for Davante Adams, and their offense can't get anything going. Davante Adams couldn't get anything going. Garrett Wilson couldn't get anything going. Breece Hall was the only player on the Jets that looked like he came to play today. Or not today, yesterday, I guess, or 2 days ago. Things are really off there. Aaron Rodgers is aging. I just don't think he's a top quarterback in this league, and obviously that's going to hurt you, right? So, Jets have, like, all of the best players and all of the best positions that you need, except for maybe offensive line and quarterback, which are, like, the two most important positions that you need to go win football games, and clearly they haven't been able to do that. So, I also had Davante Adams on one of my fantasy football teams, so if he wants to start cooking with Aaron Rodgers, that'd be awesome. But on to the Steelers. Yeah, the Jets actually were better without Rodgers. With Zach Wilson starting through 7 games, they were 3-4 last year, 4-3. And they had more yards per game and more points scored per game. I don't know what Aaron Rodgers' deal is with taking like the entire play clock as well to get any play call in, but it's like you're going down to the last second of every single play and he's trying to check everything out. And versus certain defenses, it obviously can't work, like the Steelers and what happened the week before again as well versus the Bills, right? So multiple games now with the turnover. I don't think all of them were his fault this week. Obviously, you had that bounced pass off of Garrett Wilson's, hands into the cornerback's hands. It is what it is, but you just need to get things going, and it's probably not looking likely that you're going to make the playoffs this year. And Steelers have been rolling. Steelers defense looks really good. And I don't think that this win was really all on Russell Wilson. I mean, all of the throws were all deep on the boundary, just like in Denver, right? If it's not like, same thing with Seattle. Like, he just cannot throw over the middle of the field. So what teams need to do and what the Jets should have been game planning to do was take off the check downs, right? Take away check downs, take away all the shots to the outside, and you're probably going to be able to stop his offense, right? I really think I like Fields in the way he adds to the run game there. And, obviously I'm not going to be proven otherwise until Russell Wilson has a bad game, but he didn't have a bad game. So Steelers continue to roll, and they're looking like a fun team this year. So, yeah, they still have not played a divisional game yet. So we'll see how they play against the Browns and the Ravens and the Bengals. So I know historically they normally beat the Ravens. I think they were 2-0 last year. I actually don't think Lamar has beaten the Steelers yet, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe once. And then on top of that, like, the Bengals are continuing to roll, right? They're continuing to get on their horses, I should say. So that'll be a fun matchup for the Bengals and Steelers. I think the Steelers got the Browns this week, though, so that'll be something we talk about in tomorrow's episode when we talk about our Week 8 preview, which we will be live tomorrow night for that, probably sometime after 8 Eastern time. So tune into that live on Twitch. Now, next up, back to the Ravens and the Bucks. Lamar might be the MVP, but the Bucks and the injuries, which is something I wanted to talk about since yesterday night. Mike Evans goes down, in the first or second quarter. He does get the touchdown. Next drive, he goes down. And then you're down by, 41-24? No, 41-17, was it? And you're starting to get some drives together. You have no timeouts, though, man, and there's 40 seconds left. Why even risk injuring your players? Like, the Ravens took all of their starters out, most of their starters, at least the starters on offense out. Why do you have Chris Godwin and Baker Mayfield trying to go mount nothing, right? You already lost your wide receiver 1, or I guess wide receiver 2 in Mike Evans, but now you injure your wide receiver 1. And their run game isn't particularly good, so it's going to be uphill sledding for them, right? You got Cade Otton, who had a nice night last night, but he might be the main target. I'm really excited to see who might be the main guy for the Bucks, because I picked up Jalen McMillan on fantasy football. He's the rookie out of Washington, coming from the Ryan Grubb system, who's now the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. he was pretty good. I thought he was better than Jalen Polk, who went to the Patriots a lot earlier in the draft. But you also have Sterling Shepard, who was the wide receiver one for the Giants for a couple years there. And then Trey Palmer, who's been in this Bucs system for a while as well. So I don't think the Buccaneers are going to be much of a playoff factor anymore, I think, really, without their wide receivers for the next couple weeks, man. I don't think Baker Mayfield is good enough to go win some games for them, right? And that's why I picked the Ravens in this one, was Baker Mayfield isn't super consistent on a week-to-week basis and also is so terrible under pressure that he just can't win big games like teams versus the Ravens, right? So I'm excited to see what happens in Tampa Bay and how the Ravens season continues to play out, right? So the last matchup, I picked the Chargers to beat the Cardinals, and this was primarily because the Chargers heading into this matchup was number one in EPA and DVOA for all defensive metrics. They were leading in like every category that you can think of. And I mean, maybe not pressure or takeaways or whatever, but they were doing their thing. I thought they were doing their thing in this one too, but the offense couldn't get anything going. Justin Herbert has really no weapons. I will say the Chargers are pretty banged up. Obviously, you don't want to give every single team an excuse on why they lost, or injury excuse, because every team is injured, every team is banged up, but things kind of just didn't fall the way of the Chargers, right? And Cardinals got all the breaks that they needed. There's a bunch of really, really weird fumbles, like interception that's then fumbled and recovered, or, a big play and then you fumble on the one and it's a touchback. So the pick'em record this week was not very good. The pick'em record was 8-7. I will say though, last week it was 12-2. So I promise next week it'll be a lot better. I picked a lot of teams like heading into week 7. I honestly thought I picked the Broncos in this one. I don't know what happened with me picking the Saints. I picked the Patriots because I really didn't like the Jags. I really don't like the offensive play calling. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been very consistent, and I do really like Drake May, and I do like the Patriots defense. However, they just couldn't get anything going. Then I also picked the Falcons because the Seahawks were on a losing streak. I also hate the Seahawks. Not actually, but they've been so injured. I thought they were going to be without their cornerback 2, their cornerback 3, their starting defensive tackles, and then obviously their starting offensive tackle, right? So they weren't as injured as the injury report might have said, and they came out and just dominated on defense and beat the Falcons. So the other loss, I cursed the Vikings. I've picked against the Vikings every single week, and then the one week that I pick them, they lost. So I think that has to do with something, right? And then after that, I was pretty solid. I mean, I've been picking against the Chiefs a lot too, so actually, that's not true. That's not true. But I kind of thought the 49ers would continue to roll, and their run game just looked so strong against the Seahawks, and they just couldn't get anything going in this one. And then the Jets' Devontae Adams addition and the Russell Wilson starting might have pivoted me more to go to the Jets, and Jets just suck. They stink, right? So, and then the Chargers, yeah, like I was saying, man, number one defense in all of football. You have Justin Herbert. You have like the best offensive line in football. But Dobbins couldn't get anything going. Herbert didn't get a whole lot going either. They're probably a year away, I think. I mean, probably need a few pieces on the defensive side of ball, and then go get a wide receiver. Ted McMillan would be awesome. T-Mac on this team would be awesome. So I'm excited. I think either this week I'm going to do a mock draft or I'm going to do my midseason awards. I think I'll do the mock draft this week and then the midseason awards next week, because I think it is the midseason mark next week, heading into next week, right? Week 9. Yeah, so after week 8. So tomorrow we'll do our week 8 preview, and that'll be live here on Twitch, probably 8 Eastern, like I was saying before. But if you want to call in, just get the link to my Discord. I'll have it posted in the chat probably sometime soon. I need to figure out how to get commands so then you guys can just get the link yourself. But I haven't been able to figure that out. So once I figure that out, we'll get the link in there. I'll have the link in on the YouTube channel, so make sure to go check this out on YouTube. It's just my Twitch name, but on YouTube. So, yeah, it was a fun episode. Always love talking football. Always love talking football with everybody else, but it'll be a lot funner, I'd say, and it'd be a lot better if I get to talk to you guys, see what you guys like to think, and where you're at in the headspace on how your football team is doing and what's going on with them. So, thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, go to the Twitch live here 3 days a week at least. So, what does LB stand for? Maybe I'll have to make a video about that, but nobody actually knows. LB means really nothing, and I need to figure it out. I need to figure out a cool name. I feel like maybe a rebrand can happen, but for now I'm sticking with LB Donut. So if you're here for the LB Donut ride, thank you, and subscribe and like, and